Well, we're joined now by the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I mean, what do you say to people who are facing the biggest dropping living standards since the 1950s? You know, they're struggling to pay bills now. A lot of people are going to have to pay more taxes, and it's going to make it even harder for them, isn't it?
Morning, Charlotte. It's a very tough international situation. These are problems that are being faced by America, Germany, France, countries similar to us. And what we have is a plan, and it's really a plan to tackle the long-term thing that's really causing people the most worry, which is their weekly shop becoming much more expensive, fuel prices going up, the energy bills skyrocketing. It tackles inflation, and by the end of next year, you see inflation coming right down. But as we go through this recession, there's a lot of help for people. So the triple lock is respected. That means pensions go up by a record amount. Pensioner will see an £860 increase. National living wage is going up by a record amount. That's for people on low pay, very important. If they work full time, that's £1,600. £900 of additional support for people on benefit, and those benefits going up by inflation as well. So we're doing a lot of things to help people who are most exposed to the difficult situation we're in, but also there's a plan there. We're not ducking the difficult decisions, very painful decisions for me as a Conservative to put up taxes. But that means that we are set to get through these difficult times, and I think that's what people want to know. There's a plan, and there's confidence that if we deliver the plan, we'll get through to the other side.
Yeah, although it is a worry for people that, you know, you say, yes, get through to the other side, but for a lot of people, it's paying the bills right now that's an issue. I know you're keen to sort of point the finger at global factors, you know, the pandemic being an issue, the war in Ukraine, the situation with Russia being an issue, but, you know, there are other factors at play, aren't there, where we see the impact of Brexit. You know, the OBR has confirmed that latest evidence suggests Brexit's had a significant adverse impact on UK trade. That has to be taken into account. And the effect of the mini-budget, which we know cost billions as well, didn't it?
Well, let's deal with both of those. The mini-budget, there were mistakes. We reversed them in 3 weeks. Long-term borrowing rates are what they were before the mini-budget. But I don't pretend that there were some things that the previous Chancellor got wrong, and we've corrected those. There was, by the way, in that something very important for everyone, which is the £2,500 energy price cap for the average household. That's going to make a big difference, and we've kept that because it's very important. And by the way, it helps to bring down inflation. As far as Brexit's concerned, you know, this is a decision that the whole country, or you know, the majority of the country voted for, and it's very important in a democracy that you respect what people vote for. Of course, there's short-term disruption as we change our economic model. But I believe, and someone who happened to vote Remain, I believe there are very big long-term opportunities from Brexit. Yesterday, I talked about how we could become the world's next Silicon Valley. It's a longer-term project, but the freedom we have to introduce our own regulations in the growth industries of the future will really help us. So I think we can make a tremendous success of Brexit.
That feels like a long way away at the moment, particularly with you having to balance the books and find that stability as you had to do yesterday. One of the things about the mini-budget, which you will have noticed and we did, was the sort of the sharp rise in interest payments for mortgage holders and for private renters, of course, for their landlords, and the impact that had, the amount of mortgage products that were taken off the shelf. I wonder what you're going to do, what your plan is for mortgage holders and private renters. They're having less than inflationary pay rises, and yet they're going to face these huge rates that go up when they come off their fixed terms. Is that something you're focusing on? There was nothing in the autumn statement, but of course, I know this is something that a lot of mortgage holders and renters are facing right now.
Thanks, Ben. Really important question. I mean, I was thinking about them pretty much every moment as I delivered my statement, because it was a statement that brings down inflation. And the Office for Budget Responsibility, who are independent, as you know, they said that because of the decisions that I took yesterday, inflation would be lower than it would otherwise have been. That means the pressure on the Bank of England to increase interest rates is lower. And let's remember, just 1% increase is £850 on the average mortgage. So it makes a big difference. And I think seeing inflation fall markedly in the second half of next year is going to make a big difference to families up and down the country with mortgages.
But have you specifically got a plan? And obviously you want to bring inflation down and that will help. But is there a plan for those people who are going to come off their fixed terms and suddenly face these huge hikes? Are you looking at a raft of measures that will help them? And those renters, of course, the private renters who are having their rents go up because their landlords are facing these huge increases.
Well, we did cap the social rent rises yesterday. When it comes to people with mortgages, we have schemes in place to help people avoid repossessions. We keep those continually under review. But, you know, the big thing we can do to keep mortgage hikes lower is to bring down inflation. I think it's important to say to people that the rises in interest rates have been higher in America, in Canada, in New Zealand. So these are global challenges. By acting quickly, we're doing everything we can to make sure those rises are as low as possible in the UK.
Let's turn to things that weren't in there, that, you know, people suggesting could have been. Action on Nondoms, more targeted measures such as scrapping non-dom status in full. This could have raised £3.2 billion a year. Why has this not been done? Why are you so keen to cling on to this when there are so many calls for it to be changed to raise a vital amount of money for the country?
Well, we did actually introduce a measure that's going to raise nearly £1 billion more from non-doms by reducing tax avoidance. But, you know, let's be straightforward about this. There are non-dom regimes. This is for wealthy foreigners, and there are regimes for non-doms in Ireland, in France, in Portugal and Spain. I'd rather those rich foreigners spent their money in the UK creating jobs for British people than spend it elsewhere.
The difficulty with that, though, Mr. Hunt, is that when you're sitting when our viewers are sitting at home...
Just let me finish, Ben. Sorry. Can you just let me finish the question, and then you can ask another question for sure. If you're saying we let wealthier people off the hook yesterday, I just don't think that holds water. We increased the taxes paid by people earning over £150,000 by £1,000. That's at the same time as we increased the state pension for our pensioners by £1,000, increased the national living wage for people working full-time by more than £1,000. So this was a set of decisions where we are asking people who have more to contribute more.
I think one of the reasons I was trying to interrupt is because our viewers will be sitting at home saying the people that you're talking about, these very wealthy foreign individuals that aren't domiciled here in the UK, feel like they're being protected. Many of them multi-millionaires, billionaires. They are tax exiles and they don't pay any tax in the UK, and they get the benefit of being here without having to front up and pay taxes like the rest of us. And it feels like if they want to enjoy the benefits of being in the UK, and as you say, there are plenty because they're here, they're spending their money here, why can't they sort of face the same tax situation that we face as well? Because we're having to share the burden of what's happened because of the war, because of the pandemic, because of the mini-budget.
Well, I think you've just answered the question. They are tax exiles. They will move to where it is they can avoid tax, and I want them to spend their money here. Look, it would have been an easy political hit to remove that status, and they would have moved, and that would have been less
for them to avoid
money
tax
spent
as long as
in
they're
the
here?
UK, less jobs. No, I've actually, as I said, introduced measures that mean they pay £1 billion more tax, and the ones that have been here a long time pay £75,000 a year in order to be entitled to this. But I want jobs for British people. I want them to spend their money here. These people are people who will move all over the world, and this is a package overall yesterday that asks wealthier people to contribute more. And I think that's an important message that a Conservative government is saying, that we're going to ask people with the broadest shoulders to bear the heaviest burdens. We're going to protect, by the way, not just pensioners, people on benefits, people on the national living wage, but also our really important public services, the NHS, schools, social care. You haven't talked about that yet, but no. I think it's very important that this is a Conservative government that really believes that public services matter. Why is that? Because if we want to help people get back to work, then it's the NHS that's going to help deal with their long COVID give them the operation they need. So they are, the NHS in particular, is part of the solution.
OK. Apologies, we don't have enough time to talk about all those things. We have been talking about them on the programme this morning already, but we do appreciate you joining us this morning, Chancellor. Thank you.